safety, cost of living, and climate. That's what we're going to talk about today in our video. And if you're in the market of getting real estate here in the Riviera Maya and you need a little bit of guidance, make sure you click on the buyer's guide below. This buyer's guide is going to get you in touch with one of our trusted agents and is going to help you with the steps of purchasing real estate down here. My name is Lev. I'm the co-founder of the Elements Real Estate Group. And without further ado, let's talk about life in Mexico as an expat. So life in Mexico, especially in Playa del Carmen and Tulum, is very different than life in Mexico in the center of the country, where you got mountainous regions or cities like Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey. Here, our climate is very different. We have sunshine 365 days a year. In the winter months, it gets to about 30 degrees Celsius here, 31, 32 Fahrenheit. You just got to do the conversion. And in the summer months, it's a little bit hotter. You're looking at about 35, 34 degrees Celsius. However, there's a lot more humidity, which makes it very, very wet. Your eyelids sweat, your kneecaps sweat, your elbows, everything sweats, and it's a lot hotter in the summer. So a lot of North Americans do is they come here during the winter months and spend the winters here, and then they leave back for the summer months for lake life and all of that stuff back in their hometown. So if you're thinking about climate, I mean, it does rain here a little bit here and there. We've had 2 major hurricanes over the last 30 years. So it's not like we get constantly bombarded like the southern part of the United States, for example, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, these types of states. And it's just a great everyday atmosphere. People are in the sunshine, people are happy, you feel better here. There's an energy here, whether it's Playa del Carmen, Tulum, especially Tulum, and Venturas and Cancun. The other thing that we're going to talk about as well is obviously the cost of living. Recently, the cost of living has become a little bit more expensive in this area, but it's not because Mexico became more expensive. It's actually because the US dollar and the Canadian dollar lost strength against the Mexican peso. So I'll give you some examples of the cost of living here. If you're looking at, for example, a cell phone bill, you can get 5 gigabytes, unlimited data, and they cost 500 pesos. So about 4 years ago, 500 pesos was 25 US dollars. Now 500 pesos is close to 35 US dollars because the exchange again dipped on the US and Canadian side. If you're going to go get a haircut, it's anywhere between 200 and 250 pesos, which again used to be about $12. Groceries at the store are actually extremely affordable unless you're buying import products. So if you're going to go get, rice, beans, chicken, vegetables, fruit, grains, all of that is still extremely affordable compared to pricing in the US and Canada. However, if you're buying Cool Ranch Dorito chips and they're imported, they're going to cost you about $10. So that's something to take note of. My car wash here, when I go get a car wash, is about 200 pesos, which is about $10. They clean it inside and outside, and extremely, extremely good job. There's about 4 guys cleaning the car. And a few other things, for example, if you want to get your eyelashes done or your nails done, they're about a quarter of the price that you would pay in the US or Canada. Recently, inflation has really took a toll in the US and in Canada. However, here, yes, there's been a bit of inflation, but it's still relatively inexpensive if you compare it to those markets. If you want to buy a car here, cars are expensive. So cars are not something that you can expect to pay less for. You'll actually pay more for a car here, but you can still find good deals, whether it's at the dealership, used car lot, or on Facebook Marketplace. You can definitely find good deals. Let's talk now about the biggest topic of Mexico that's been on everyone's minds always. And that topic is safety. How safe is Mexico? Remember, before we get into how the safety of Mexico, if you're thinking about buying real estate here, make sure you click on the buyer's guide below. And this buyer's guide is going to get you in touch with one of our trusted agents who know the market inside out and will guide you every step of the way of how to properly buy, own, and invest real estate here in the Riviera Maya. So, safety. Mexico, for the longest time, has had crime rampant on the news outlets and social media in North America. It's something that everyone knows about. It's something that everyone's seen on the news or has seen on a Netflix show or movie or something along those lines. The reality of living here is quite different. So we are beach towns at the end of the day, and we are right next to the water. What that basically means is that yes, there's crime here, but it's not crime like you would expect in the States or in Canada. Usually the crime is between criminal organizations. It is quite rare that someone is part of something where crime's involved that's not part of a criminal organization or that's not looking for trouble themselves. However, does it happen? Yes, absolutely. Just like it happens in any major North American city, anywhere in the world. There's crime everywhere. But for the most part, I'd say about 90% of the time, it's extremely safe here. There's very little crime when it comes to breaking and entering, when it comes to robbing cars, when it comes to going to a store like in San Francisco and people are just robbing the Apple store of cell phones. You don't see that here. I've had clients and friends that have come down here thinking that it's a complete chaos here and everyone just kidnaps everyone and everyone is held for ransom, when in fact, when they leave, they see that it's quite the opposite. They would walk at night from the bar at 11:30 and it would be perfect. Nothing happened to them. And that's basically how it happens here. I've got 2 kids myself, got a lovely wife. She goes out to dinners and lunches with her girlfriends and everything's fine. Walks at night at 11 in the evening and nothing happens. Goes to her car, drives home and everything's fine. And I've never personally been in a situation where I have to fear for my life in any sort of reason. So to point out that yes, there's crime, but it doesn't affect everyday life and it doesn't affect everyday tourism. Year over year over year, with everything that's happened in the past and all the negative publicity and all the negative press that this area has had, we have continued to break records of how many tourists are coming on a yearly basis. Something that I've noticed too is in Canada and the US, because the inflation became so high, a lot of people unfortunately revert to criminal activities, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's robbing, whether it's breaking into a car. I haven't had my car broken into in 10 years here. I leave it open 99% of the time. And for the most part, the everyday people here are just normal people. They wake up, they go to work, they run businesses, they go to school, they just do what everybody else does. And I would just advise to not really believe everything you see on the news and everything you see on social media until you actually come here and spend some time here. Well, that was basically the video coming from a non-salesman, non-pitchy way of what it's like really living here. The cost of living is great. It's much lower than the US and Canada. You have also safe neighborhoods here. You have the beaches. Everything is safe. There's lots of patrolling by the Marines, by the federal police, by the army, just to have a presence so that the peace is here. And, you know, the climate, you can't beat it. I mean, you were looking at sunshine 365 days a year, and I used to live in Vancouver where we only got 2 months of sunshine out of the entire year. And it does change something in your body and in your soul when you're in the sun surrounded by the jungle and the water. So if you're looking into getting into the market here, whether it's for investment purposes or relocation purposes, and if you want the best representation from a US and Canadian based real estate team, then you should definitely get in touch with us by clicking on the buyer's guide below. This buyer's guide is going to get you in touch with one of our trusted agents that has lived here for a long time, that knows the ins and outs, knows how to buy, knows how to sell, and everything in between. Also, make sure to watch our other videos on our channel.